Welcome to Deep Dive with InvestMoneyUAE. We're digging into something pretty major today, a really big moment in the financial markets. Just yesterday, September 2nd, 2025, gold, well, it surged big time. Hit an unprecedented $3,528.78 an ounce on the spot market. That's a record.
Absolutely a record, a stunning number.
And it wasn't just, a global thing. Local markets felt it too. Dubai saw a 24-carat jump to 426.0000 yesterday, and India saw its own record prices. So how do we make sense of this? What's going on?
Well, I think what's really compelling here is that this isn't just some, sudden blip. It feels like a powerful statement about gold's role. Its enduring importance as like a bedrock of financial security.
Okay.
This sustained push upwards, especially breaking such key price levels, it points to a real shift in how nations and investors too are valuing gold now, especially with everything going on globally.
Okay, let's get into those specifics then, because a huge part of this story, it seems, starts with one type of buyer, central banks. We've seen reports over 400 metric tons bought just in the first half of 2025. Is this aggressive buying, this sustained buying, is that the real linchpin here?
It absolutely is. I mean, the World Gold Council, they track this stuff closely, right?
Right.
They reported 244 tons in net purchases just in Q1 2025. That's 24% above the 5-year quarterly average. So significant.
Wow.
And this really strong demand, it's meeting supply that's, well, a bit constrained. Mine output did hit a record in Q2, 909 tons. But for the whole year, production's only projected to grow by maybe 1%.
Only 1%.
Yeah, it's a classic supply-demand squeeze situation playing out.
That's definitely tight. And looking at Q2 numbers, it's fascinating. You see investment demand surging, central bank demand strong.
Exactly. Investment up almost 6% year on year. Central banks adding another 290 tons.
But here's the interesting flip side, Jewelry.
Right.
High prices seem to be hitting that side, right? Consumption dropped 14% in Q2. Lowest since 2010.
Yeah, that's a really insightful point. High prices definitely make things like jewelry, discretionary buys less attractive. But if you connect that to who is doing the heavy buying, it gets even more telling. Since 2020, the big central bank buyers have been China, Poland, and India.
Okay.
China's central bank, the PBOC, they've been adding gold for 8 straight months now, as of June. India's RBI, Bank of Russia, they're actively stockpiling too. And Poland is a great example. They bought 287 tons across 2020, 2023, and this year. They explicitly said it was to hit their 20% gold reserves target.
So they're not buying it for looks.
Exactly. They're buying security, not trinkets.
Right. So it's clear emerging markets are really piling in. Though the U.S. still has the biggest reserves, over 8,100 tons. But it raises the big question, why?
Yeah.
Why this aggressive, almost, coordinated buying from so many different countries right now?
It really signals a major move towards strategic diversification.
Yeah.
You've got geopolitical shifts, economic changes, rising global tensions, changing alliances. All these things are pushing central banks, especially in emerging markets, to boost their gold reserves. It's like a strategic safeguard.
Yeah.
And it's a deliberate effort to, well, reduce dependency on U.S. monetary policy, minimize their vulnerability to sanctions, and lessen reliance on systems like SWIFT. The global banking message system. Some see it as a point of leverage.
So we're really talking about a significant de-dollarization trend here. You mentioned that for the first time since 1996, central bank gold holdings actually outweigh their U.S. Treasury holdings now.
That's right. It's a fundamental shift, a really big deal in global finance.
Wow.
And this shift is also being pushed by wider economic stuff, persistent inflation worries.
Still a concern.
Yeah, different monetary policies in different countries, growing worries about debt sustainability. I mean, look at the U.S. federal debt hit $36 trillion by June 25.
36 trillion.
Exactly. These conditions, plus negative real interest rates in many places, they make gold, which is, a monetary asset with no counterparty risk, look exceptionally attractive. Historically, it tends to correlate with broad money supply, M2, and inflation, the CPI. So it reinforces that role as a stable store of value when faith in regular currencies is maybe wavering a bit.
Okay, so if we tie all that together, the strategic moves, the de-dollarization, the economic worries, Were these the perfect ingredients for that huge jump past $3,500 yesterday?
Absolutely. I think the immediate triggers for hitting those all-time highs yesterday are pretty clear. First, markets are now pricing in, an 88% chance of a Fed rate cut this month, a 25 basis point cut.
Even with the recent PCE numbers.
Even with those. And that expectation, that anticipation of a policy shift has really weakened the dollar. The DXY index, which tracks the dollar against other currencies, was down at 97.7 on Friday. Compare that to almost 110 back in January.
Big drop.
Huge. And since gold and the dollar usually move in opposite directions, that's a major tailwind for gold.
Plus, we can't ignore the background noise.
Yeah.
Right? The ongoing geopolitical tensions, trade issues like U.S. tariffs.
Yeah.
That always pushes investors towards safe havens.
Definitely. And add in what we already discussed, that consistent buying from central banks providing really strong support underneath.
Right.
Combined with that very modest, that 1% growth in mine output, which just isn't keeping up with demand.
It all lines up.
Yeah, and the World Gold Council has this model, the gold return attribution model. It basically breaks down why gold moved. Recently, it shows the gains are mostly down to two things: opportunity cost, which is mainly the weaker dollar, and risk and uncertainty, with about half of that coming from geopolitical risk specifically.
So it paints a very clear picture. Macro forces are firmly in the driving seat.
Precisely.
Okay, we've talked about the drivers, the current situation. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about the transformation gold's gone through, especially this divide, pre-2022 versus post-2022. If you were watching gold, say, between 2015 and 2021, it felt more like a steady climber.
Yeah, steady is a good word.
It hit lows like $1,045 back in December 2015, eventually bottomed around $4,429 in November 2022. And central bank buying was decent, but more like 500, 600 tons a year.
Right. Respectable, but not explosive. And then after 2022, things really shifted. We entered what a lot of people are calling an explosive bull market.
Explosive seems right.
Gold more than doubled since late 2022, hit $3,287 by the end of June this year. And it set, get this, 68 new all-time highs along the way.
68. Wow.
Yeah, and this lines up perfectly with central bank buying just taking off. Over 1,000 tons a year since the Russia-Ukraine war started in 2022. That's like 25–30% of all the gold mined.
Huge chunk.
Massive. Plus, we saw big inflows into gold ETFs. First half of 2025 had 397 tons coming in the biggest first half since 2020. It's just a fundamentally different market environment now.
That is a serious acceleration. But let's be realistic. Gold never just goes straight up, does it?
No, absolutely not.
History shows regular corrections, 20–30%, even multi-year bear markets.
Yeah.
So how do we tell the difference? How do we know if we're seeing a healthy pause or the start of something worse?
That's a critical distinction. In strong bull markets, gold often does what we call correcting in time rather than price.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
It means it might move sideways, consolidate for months. It doesn't crash, but it pauses. This allows the market fundamentals and the technicals like moving averages, the 150-day, the 200-day to sort of catch up.
Right, build a base.
Exactly. And the current consolidation, the sideways move that started around April 2024, that's widely seen as healthy. If you look back at patterns from, say, 1972 or 2005, it suggests this phase might need maybe another 4 or 5 months to fully play out. It's building that stronger base for the next move up.
So more like a breather, not a breakdown. But we should remember, gold has had some really dramatic drops. What can we learn from the big ones, like 2011 to 2015, about spotting real danger signs?
Yeah, those were tough periods. The 2011-2015 bear market saw gold drop over 54%. And remember, 2013, it plunged 30% in just 1 year.
Ouch.
Yeah. Back then, you had factors like major banks calling the end of the age of gold, fears about central banks selling off reserves. The common warning signs then were things like rising real interest rates, a strengthening U.S. dollar, and less geopolitical tension. That's often bad news for gold.
Okay, so how does today compare?
Well, the current consolidation still shows really strong underlying momentum. Prices are staying well above those key moving averages, the 150-day and 200-day. Some technical indicators, like Bollinger Bandwidth, which measures volatility, suggest maybe more time is needed for things to compress before the next big leg up.
Right.
But crucially, gold's relative strength, how it's performing compared to other currencies and stocks, that indicates pretty solid underlying support. It feels quite different from those past bear markets.
That distinction is really important. Okay, so keeping all that history and the current context in mind, let's look ahead. What are the big financial institutions saying about 2025 and 2026?
Well, the overall mood is overwhelmingly bullish, really quite positive.
Okay, any specific numbers?
Yeah, Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan are both looking at $4,000 an ounce. Goldman by mid-2026, JP Morgan by Q2 2026.
4,000, that's a big call.
It is. UBS is projecting $3,700 by end of 26. Wells Fargo sees $3,600 by then. And the World Gold Council, their base case for the rest of this year, 2025, is somewhere between $3,100 and $3,500 an ounce. But they see potential to test $4,000, maybe even $5,000 in the next 12 to 24 months.
No. And they even have a more bullish scenario, something about stagflation.
Right. They're saying if we see stagflationary pressures really kick in or a recession, that could drive rates lower, weaken the dollar further, push central banks to diversify even more. In that scenario, they see prices potentially 10-15% higher in the second half of this year, maybe closing 2025 up around 40% overall.
Okay, so what are the core structural reasons underpinning these optimistic forecasts? Why isn't it just, wishful thinking?
There are several really solid long-term drivers. First, that central bank demand we talked about, expected to stay strong, above 1,000 tons a year.
Okay.
Second, major concerns about U.S. fiscal policy. That record debt, $36 trillion, credit rating downgrades, it makes people question the long-term value of the dollar.
Understandable.
Third, ongoing geopolitical tensions. That drives safe haven demand. Fourth, persistent inflation and different monetary policies globally. That environment is usually good for gold.
Right.
Then you've got the expected Fed rate cuts likely weakening the dollar further. And finally, back to basics. That mining supply just isn't growing fast enough, while ETF inflows remain strong, and we expect Chinese retail demand to rebound too. Lots of tailwinds.
So a lot of factors pushing in the same direction. But again, even with a strong outlook, it probably just rockets straight up without any pauses, right? We should still expect that market rhythm.
Absolutely. Expect periods where gold trades sideways, maybe with a slight upward tilt. There's what some call the consolidation case, maybe a 30% chance. That would see prices range between, say, $3,000 and $3,600 for maybe 6 to 12 months. Could be profit-taking, maybe a temporary dip in safe haven demand.
But viewed as base building, not a crash.
Exactly. A healthy pause before the next move higher. Technically, if gold can get above $3,395, the next target looks like $3,426. A solid move above $3,460 would likely open the door to new all-time highs.
And the downside?
Well, a drop below $3,300, that would probably invalidate the current bullish trend, at least in the short term.
Okay, these projections are definitely interesting, but let's bring it back to the listener. What does all this mean for you, the investor, whether you're here in the UAE or anywhere else? How does gold fit into a portfolio now?
Well, the main benefit gold offers is diversification. It has that really low correlation with stocks, like the S&P 500 historically around NAC 0.05 over 30 years.
So it moves differently.
Very differently. That means it provides real protection during market downturns, what we call tail risk protection. And it's a hedge against inflation and the long-term erosion of currency value. Now, mining stocks can sometimes offer higher returns than physical gold because of operational leverage, but you need to look for companies with good discipline and growing production.
Okay.
One thing to keep in mind, though, these continued high prices might keep a lid on consumer demand for jewelry and could even encourage some selling. That might slightly temper how high prices go.
Right. So for someone building a balanced portfolio, what kind of allocation are we talking about for gold? 5%, 10%?
Yeah, most standard frameworks suggest maybe 5–10% for a balanced portfolio. But it's interesting to note that central banks often hold much higher percentages.
Why that?
It really reflects gold's unique role in preserving wealth, especially when there's monetary instability. It's seen as irreplaceable in that context.
And practically, how can people get exposure?
Well, physically backed gold ETFs are very popular. We've seen huge inflows there. They're traded like stocks, easy to access.
Okay.
Then there's physical bullion itself, things like London Good Delivery bars, those big 400-ounce bars, minimum 99.5% pure. They offer simplicity, security, no counterparty risk. And in many places, investment-grade gold like that is VAT-free.
Yeah, a good point. Okay, that's really helpful. So wrapping this up, the main takeaway seems to be gold looks likely to stay strong, medium to long term, thanks to some powerful underlying forces.
Exactly.
But as always with gold, expect it to move in phases. consolidation periods, maybe some short-term pullbacks before it potentially reaches for those higher highs we discussed.
That sums it up well, and maybe a final thought to leave you with. Consider the implications when central banks, the biggest players, measure their gold strategy not in months or years, but in decades. They're accumulating gold, even at record prices, hedging against really deep systemic uncertainty. What does that long-term confidence from the world's most powerful financial institutions tell you about gold's enduring value? Something far beyond just the daily price swings, especially in this increasingly unpredictable world.
That's a powerful thought to end on. If you enjoy this deep dive and want more such market insights, don't forget to subscribe to InvestMoneyUAE.